Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. In this episode, I'm going to review the internal workshop SOP that stands for Standard Operating Procedure and Scorecard that I use in my own practice here. So a little bit of a backstory. A few years ago within our industry and private practice, the main question that people were asking is, should I be marketing direct to consumer? And very specifically, I'm talking about private practice PT. For years, for 24 years now, I've been doing workshops in one way or another. Really ramped up in the early 2000s once I had my own private practice. And also once we started seeing physician referrals go away and stay within the hospital systems and healthcare systems, because the hospital and healthcare systems in our area started buying up the physician referrals. So we had to market direct to the consumer. And I had some experience doing workshops in the past and understood there was something there. So if I had to hedge my bet and do it all over again, I would do the same exact thing and go all in on workshops, which was exactly what we did in the early 2000s. Nobody else was doing it at the time, at least not in our area. There's one other practice owner that I knew before 2008 who was running workshops, and he was doing really well down in Florida with them, but I didn't know that until years later. Anyhow, workshops are not marketing. Workshops are a conversion mechanism once you get marketing in place. And as we walk through this SOP, this is the same exact thing that I use in my clinic to debug when workshops are non-optimum, and also really to get more effective results from our marketing efforts. So again, workshops are just a conversion mechanism. Now, as you can see on your screen here, if you're watching this on video, if you're listening to the podcast, I'll read at least the most important parts of this SOP as you go through. Also, just as an aside, we will make sure that there is a link for this Google Doc within the show notes so you can access it, make a copy, and use it for those of you that are doing your own workshops, especially in-house. This SOP in particular is for in-house workshops where you're the host. The next thing I'm going to do here is within this document, we're going to go to the very bottom, and there is something that we use called a scorecard. And the first thing that happens in a workshop is we have to have people in the room, right? Lots of ways we can do that. We can market our workshop to our past patient list via email, text, or direct mail. We can also market it to cold traffic and everything else in between, right? But there has to be some marketing effort where we are buying media, again, email, direct mail, text, if we're going to our past patient list, or we're going out into the cold traffic, out into our community of people and advertising, right? It's going to be one of those two ways that we're getting people in the room. So the very first thing that we have on the scorecard is number of registrants. Our personal goal is 30. We know if we have 30 registrants, we're going to have between 15 and 20 people in the room, which is very much our wheelhouse. We've had as many as 108, I think, is the most registrants that we've ever had. We're here at Breakthrough, we're working with a practice now in their first month. And the asterisk here, the disclaimer is that they've never run a workshop before. And I think they're already up to 112 registrations. We've just found that anytime that we go over 30 or 40, and especially when we have more than 20 people in the room, it becomes a lot more difficult for us to convert those people over to plans of care and paying patients. So number of registrant is the first thing we have on our scorecard. The second thing that we have is the number of attendees. So if we have 30 people responding to our Facebook ad or our print ad, and then 20 people in the room, we would fill in 20 here on the scorecard. The next thing that we have is the number of first appointments. If we have 20 people in the room and we have an experienced presenter in the room for the workshop, I would expect that 15 to 18 of those people are going to schedule a first appointment. And a first appointment can be a free screen, a discovery visit, or a paid appointment, whatever it is that you are driving to in your call to action from the workshop. The fourth thing that we measure is the number of first appointments who convert over to a plan of care. Again, our assumption is, and the example that I'm using here, 15 to 18 first appointments. We would expect the majority of those people, let's call it 13 to 15 of those people, to schedule out a full plan of care. And then from that, the next thing we're going to measure is the number of graduations. That's the number of people who start on a plan of care, achieve their goals, and graduate from our treatment plan. And that gives us a really good idea. And we do this for every workshop. Right now, within our private practice, we're running 12 workshops a month for our 6 locations. But so we start with looking at the metrics of what happened, right? If you've run a workshop within the last few months or within the last year, you can go through, dig up your metrics and fit them in here. Now, why do we look at metrics? The purpose of looking at metrics is so that we know where to look to optimize what it is that we're doing. So this is true for any system, any process that we have within our practice. Perhaps the easiest place for us to see this in action would be in a treatment plan when we have, let's say, a student or we have an entry-level clinician working with us that we're mentoring, right? What do? Well, we look at their metrics. So in that case, it would be how many new patients did you see in, let's say, the last month? How many visits did you see? How many of those people completed their plan of care? What's the attendance rate? Maybe you're looking at something, build units or something like that as well. But we would audit, we would track metrics so we know where we can help that young clinician, right? Whether they're a student or an entry level, somebody that we're mentoring, right? So we would start with a scorecard. Then from the results, so let's say we had 30 registrants and we had 2 attendees. Well, then we would know exactly where to look. And if we scroll back up to the beginning of the SOP, it walks us through how to do that. So, a little bit of background on the workshop. It's typically, what is it? It's typically a 45 to 60-minute patient education event where a clinician or a presenter, and we've seen non-clinicians do this quite well within Breakthrough, but a clinician or a presenter shares information on a specific topic. Examples would be, we run one rotator cuff workshop in every single one of our practices every month. So that's our go-to. Back pain workshop, pelvic floor. Now we're doing laser, shockwave, et cetera. So quite a few examples of balance and dizziness, neuropathy. It can be on any one given topic. Very quickly, the thing I would caution you to do, which I see a lot of owners do when they decide to do workshops, is they try to do one workshop that encapsulates everybody. Don't do that. Make it very specific to the type of condition and person that you want to attract into your practice. So what do they do in the end when they're run well and they're optimized? They're a form of patient education. You're sharing information. They're a conversion mechanism where we convert people who are interested in our services over to patients paying for our services. 5 areas must align in order for the workshop to be successful. The first is registrants from advertising. Very possible to run, and well, let's talk about this. There's organic advertising and there's paid advertising. I don't know of any practice who successfully, over the long term, like more than 1 month, has run organic ads or organic post and had consistent workshop flow. I don't see it. I've never more than 1 month that working. And typically when they're doing it, it's on a brand new platform. So, Facebook in 2014 would be one example of that worked, but it was very short-lived. Today, and especially on a more mature social platform, if you're advertising online, which is the easiest place to advertise, a good target for online ads would be roughly $1,000 in ad spend, and we would want 30 registrants from that. That would be a good target. That's possible today. Again, I just shared one outlier, which was just this month, 112 registrants for $1,000, less than $10 per lead. That is unreal. A better target would be that 30, which was about $33 per lead per registrant coming through. And, there are outliers the other way as well, where some areas the advertising is very difficult depending on the platform, and you can easily get into, over $100. And we have a clinic like that. It's in a very rural area, but nonetheless, registrants from advertisements are the first thing that we're going to be looking at to align. The second thing is registrants attend the workshop. Now, when somebody clicks on your ad or they see your print ad or your direct mail piece and they register, right? It could be a call in, it could be you're sending them to a landing page where you're capturing their information to register. Regardless of the mechanism that you're using there's going to be some time elapsing from the time that person registers until they actually show up in the room. Now, what happens during that time? We call that conversion, right? And specifically here, in our case, we have an internal person, a marketer, who is following up with that registrant. Hi, Jane, saw you registered for the rotator cuff workshop. What's going on with your shoulder? Right. And she's going to have on our team, it's going to be Ashley or Timber or Excel or Megan. They're having a conversation with the registrant via phone call, text, or email. And what we find is that when that happens, likelihood of attendance goes through the roof, like dramatically increases attendance. Now, every once in a while, we'll work with an owner here at Breakthrough who runs ads only. They get registrants, but they don't have anybody calling the registrants, right? And they're simply doing automated email, which we provide here at Breakthrough, but they're not physically following up. And do you think they have a high attendance rate? Well, it's not as high as it could be if they had somebody calling those leads and building a relationship, asking questions beforehand. Yeah, good target here is 70% of registrants attend the workshop. That is something very achievable to work towards. 50% is great, depending on the ad source as well. The third thing that it must align is scheduling that first appointment. And, in our case, when we have the workshop and, let's say we have 15 people in the room, we offer at the end, we drive straight to an initial evaluation. That's what my practice does. At Breakthrough, we work with other practices who might opt it, for a free screen or discovery visit, whatever they call that based on their practice act in their area. But during the workshop, there is some sort of call to action driving to schedule that type of appointment. And, we've routinely seen in our own practices and other practices as well, 100% of attendees schedule a first appointment. That is very possible to do. We've had one practice here where 4 months in a row, the presenter was able to schedule every single person who attended the workshop, which is very good, very high success rate. So that's something to look for there. The fourth thing that must align is the scheduling of a plan of care. So you host your workshop, 15 people in the room, let's say 10 of them schedule that first appointment, which is still a very healthy conversion rate from the workshop. So 15 schedule a first appointment and one person schedules a plan of care, right? So massive drop off. We had 9 people schedule and attend a first appointment, and only one scheduled a plan of care. What would we look at there? Well, previously on Grow Your Practice Live here, you've heard me talk about the 7-step exam, which is yet another process that we have here at Madden and Gilbert PT in my private practice, and also that I've been sharing for 10 plus years here at Breakthrough, right? It's a very systematic way to take that first appointment and help them schedule a full plan of care on day one. And, what's the goal of that first appointment? It's to assess the patient's condition, make sure that our treatment services are right for them, and establish a treatment plan. And you should be getting pretty good buy-in right there. So scheduling a plan of care, that has to align as well. And then the fifth thing that must be there is completing the plan of care. Now, there's a lot that we could talk about here. The 3 phases of healing. That's one of the mental models that we use from, I believe that was published by the University of Pittsburgh. But, a fair target for any of our clinicians, regardless of where the new patient comes from, is about 80% completion rate. So if a clinician in a given month sees 20 new patients, we expect about 16 of those patients to achieve their goals and graduate, in our case, from physical therapy. So, and we've also talked about graduation rate here and how to do a graduation rate audit. on Grow Your Practice Live as well. And then the thing to think about in those 5 areas, so we have, registrants from advertisements, number 1. Number 2 is registrants attend the workshop. Number 3 is those that schedule a first appointment. Number 4 is scheduling a plan of care. Number 5 is completing the plan of care, which is our scorecard. When one of those areas is off, and it only takes one, it really can mess up or distort our entire workshop effort. And, and in this SOP, I walk through 6 different examples. Now, if all 5 align, we have, number 1 here, which is the perfect workshop. And in this example, 30 registrants, 20 of those registrants show to the workshop, 18 of the attendees schedule a first appointment. In our case, it's an IE, it's an initial evaluation. 18 of those 18 first appointments schedule a full plan of care, and 15 of those people complete their plan of care, right? This makes it easy. When this happens, there's nowhere to look, right? We just want to figure it out what we're doing here. So nothing really to do other than make sure that whatever team members are doing aligns with the processes we have in place for those 5 points, right? And that's how we generated that 7-step exam. It's how we generated our process on the conversion call, on the workshop presentation, et cetera. So the perfect workshop is where everything works out. Example number 2 here is little to no registrants. Really, where do we look when that happens? We're promoting a workshop and we have 0 registrants, or let's say 2 registrants. Well, we're not running effective advertising. And many of the principles that we've talked about here on Grow Your Practice Live before, such as market message media match, always use direct response ads, et cetera, that typically something's not aligned there, right? And, the example that I use is, well, just this year we rolled out a pelvic floor workshop after, I'm going to guess that's been requested for about 7 years now. And I've shared in other episodes here on Grow Your Practice Live why that did not come to fruition. And it was basically my mistake, my personal mistake, and an aversion that I had because we had done pelvic floor in the past as a company and that therapist retired, et cetera. But it's a very big need. Now, when we first rolled out ads here at Breakthrough, we were trying to be one thing to 3 different markets for people with pelvic floor issues. And I had shared previously that, the first and what we decided to advertise to was new and expecting mothers. We call that the beachhead, where it's the easiest place to go into because the relevance is the highest, and the social media platforms that we're advertising on, that is also where that target market is. The second group that we could advertise for with pelvic floor, based on input from our owners, was men who were suffering with prostate issues. And this tends to skew older. User interaction with Facebook and Instagram, other social media platforms isn't quite as high, and the numbers just weren't there. And the third target audience was people undergoing gender reassignment and, going through gender reassignment and transition there. So what we decided to do was first target new and expecting mothers. And by the way, just from experience, everybody still comes to the workshop. So we're not excluding anybody in actually attending the workshop. We're still talking about pelvic floor, sharing good information that's relevant to all 3 of those target markets and more.
Before we continue with this episode, here's a word about our course, Profitability Under Pressure.
How does your practice's profitability today compare to what it was back in 2019? Is it keeping pace with inflation? Hey, this is Chad Madden here. I want to introduce you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a robust financial system for your practice. Most owners aim to improve revenue per visit and enhance their bottom line. However, many are facing declining reimbursements and rising operational costs, making it challenging to maintain financial health. The Profitability Under Pressure program consolidates the best practices currently working for practice owners into one comprehensive system. This program will help you boost profit margins, reclaim your time, gain time freedom, and assist more people in your community and leave a bigger impact. You'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, create a profit plan, and use various levers to increase revenue. Additionally, you'll get a 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Inside Circle community. Here you can connect with other like-minded practice owners who are navigating similar challenges and finding solutions. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line, Peg Gray, who got her finances under control, and Jeff Gersh, who saved time with our cheat sheet for increasing profitability. Don't miss this opportunity. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more within just 90 days of implementation, guaranteed. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Click below and apply now to join the ranks of successful physical therapy private practice owners who transform their businesses with our program. Apply today.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
However, in our advertising, we're only targeting one. We're very specific. So in this example, we want to go back and we want to look at the ads, right? So if I were an owner, or in my case, when this happens, I ask to see the ads if our ads aren't performing and we don't have the number of registrants that we expect. Now, there are some things that mess us up along the way. So we recently, call it, survived a pretty hectic election season, right? Where we had hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in online ads trying to grab our attention. There was a cost to that for us in advertising to the cold market, right? And basically what it did was increase our ad spend 50%, 100% to get the same exact result, right? So things like that will happen, but the thing that I can't control the election cycle or anything like that. But what I can control is what is happening in our ads. So I just took a look at the ads and made sure that we didn't try something, dramatically new or something that I just knew would not be effective. Example number 3 here is registrants. So we have 30 registrants plus, but the attendance is poor. We have 30 registrants and 2 people show up. Where do we look here? Well, we look at what's happening after people register. And just to circle back, we look at metrics so we know as business owners, as practice owners, as managers, where to look to solve the problem. So in this case, poor attendance, we look at, do we have a call log? Can we listen to any of those calls? Or can we hear what our marketer, what our receptionist, what they're saying to the registrant? And does that match up with what our expectations are? Are they saying something, to invalidate the workshop, or they don't believe in it, or we want to take a look at that. If we're texting them, we want to take a look at the text and we want to audit a single text. I don't want to look at what we say we're sending out. I actually want to look at what is actually said on the phone, what is actually texted to the patient, what is actually emailed to the patient or workshop registrant, what was said. So we're going to go back and look at that. The most common thing that we hear is, on that confirmation call or the confirmation text, oh, I'm just confirming that you're registered, right? And no questions asked. There's an opportunity for engagement there. When that opportunity happens, many of those people who register for the event may actually come in for an appointment before the event even happens. And we can tell that just by the amount of questions, how and what type of engaging questions that our caller, our representative from our practice, is making to that workshop registrant. That we also do reminder calls and other things, but that all comes from looking at, the text, phone calls, and emails that we're sending to patients. Number 4 is we have a lot of attendees in the room. We have, historically, I call this butts and seats, right? The room is packed, but no one schedules a first appointment. I've had the opportunity and honor of watching a lot of recorded workshops over the years. We call this a poor close rate. And, typically what happens, and nearly every one that I review where this is the issue, is the presenter does a very fine job up until the call to action. And typically they're excited, they're talking about, a topic that they know about, and it, whether it's neuropathy or back pain in pregnancy or balance and dizziness, vestibular issues, whatever it might be. They're excited about it. And then it comes time for them to offer an appointment to the room, a very clear call to action, and their energy just, just drops off a cliff, and it does not look great, right, on the video. So, really, we want to be able to take a look at that. In the beginning, I simply recorded myself doing workshops, and I went back and looked at it. That's how I improved. And I asked two questions. What did I do well? What could I do better next time? And I just kept doing it that way. So if you're the presenter in this case and you're listening to this, I'd advise you to record that and really focus on the last 5 or 10 minutes, your call to action at the end. And yeah, the other, I mean, there's a lot that we could talk about here, maybe on a future episode, but what I see most often is clinicians will say something like, well, if you want to schedule an appointment, so, the bad word there being if, there's not a clear call to act, the clear expectation of what people in the room should do. I've also seen, and I've shared this elsewhere as well, where people say, okay, that's it. Now I'm done. Now we're done. Another pitfall would be asking for questions during that close. Yeah. So lots of mistakes that can happen there. But again, the easiest thing to correct that would be record it and then watch it and notice the last 5-10 minutes. And then what did you do well? What could you have done better? It's likely not the didactic information or the lecture material in the middle. You're probably doing something in the last 5 minutes that just, there's no, you never offered an appointment or something like that. And by the way, guilty as charged. I've done that here as well. It's pretty embarrassing when it happens, but that's something that you can improve. Example number 5 is lots of attendees. We have good conversion over first appointment and then poor conversion to plan of care. And the one thing that we've seen here, and I'll just share one scenario, is where the owner will do the workshop. We'll drive to free screens, discovery visits, IEs for other clinicians. And the clinician just sees that it's somebody from the workshop and they just kind of view it as an annoyance rather than an opportunity to serve. I know verbally saying that out loud seems absolutely ridiculous, but I've seen that phenomenon happen way too many times to ignore it. And yeah, if you see, and here's what typically happens. Well, it was a bad lead, bad insurance. They'll, blame it on anything. It couldn't afford anything else. And really, what I typically think of as an owner, having seen the bell curve of clinicians who convert really well from a first appointment over to a plan of care to those who don't, clinicians that convert over to a plan of care really well, regardless of the size of the plan of care, whether it's, somebody in Canada at an average plan of care of $400 or somebody who's selling a cash-based service for $10,000 plus. It's really the viewpoint of the clinician. And the clinicians that convert the best here from a first appointment over to a plan of care, regardless of whether it's cash pay or whether it's insurance based, they believe and they talk about, I assume that when somebody schedules an appointment and they keep that appointment and they're coming in for help, that it's my job to solve it. And of course, the caveat being when they're a fit, right? When the treatment service that I'm offering is aligned with and will help that person in front of me, right? So there's a sort of an assumptive mindset that the person in front of me wants help, and I provide something of value that will give them the help that they're looking for. And yeah, again, I'd reference, if this is an issue, we go to the 7-step exam. So if I see a clinician, and I mean, we just had one recently and I had to debug this, but I think they saw four first appointments from a workshop, and then none of those made it over to a plan of care. And what we did is we just sat in on a 7-step exam and saw what the clinician was doing. And they were saying something really funny when it came to the plan of care presentation, basically defraying all of their authority, celebrity, and expertise. And example number 6, we have a good conversion rate over to plan of care, but the patients are not completing their plan of care. So low graduation rate. This is a whole other issue. It's pretty common. It shows up in average visits per plan of care. I know there was this very gnarly thing in our industry a few years ago where insurance companies were basically rewarding clinicians who had a low average visit per new patient. That is insane, right? So it's rewarding clinicians who have patients dropping off. I've never seen a study where, you know, a clinician was just rocking out and winning, solving everybody's pain points, getting them to full function, pain-free, normal range of motion, normal strength, normal objective measures, negative special testing in 3 visits, and that carried through. I've never seen it. But that was a little bit of what we were told to believe as clinicians, that, if I saw somebody for 8.3 visits on average per new patient and you saw them for 8.1, that somehow, you were a better clinician. And that's just not true. When we look at numbers and looking at the data from a lot of clinicians, what's happening is some clinicians have a lot of drop off, right? And that lowers the average visit per plan of care. That's not necessarily correlated to achieving goals and returning people to function. So we want to take a look at that. And in our case, again, what we do as the coach, the mentor, we step in the room and we watch the clinician go through the 7-step exam. And then also we take a look at their notes and watch what is happening with the plan of care, right? Like, are they talking, when somebody's pain-free after 2 visits, are they talking about, the 3 phases of healing where, okay, Jane, you're pain-free, your inflammation is down, you were a 7 out of 10 when you were walking last week. Now you're a 1 out of 10 when you're walking or doing stairs. All right, here's the next phase that we're going to work on, right? That was phase number 1. Phase number 2 is normal range of motion, normal strength. So let's take a look at let's say it's knee pain. Let's take a look at your right knee. Let's take a look at your left knee. See you on the right, you're kicking out 37 pounds. On the left, it's 45. We want your right knee to be just as strong as your left. Right, so now we're going to focus on that for the next few visits. Then once we go through that, then the next phase will be, you said that you wanted to be able to go up and down the stairs to your basement without pain. So we're going to have you test that, because I know those stairs are a little bit different than the stairs in here, right? Or, you have to be able to walk a quarter mile for work or whatever it is, right? So then we're going to focus on function in phase 3. So they're talking about where they're at today, how far they've come, and then the work that is ahead for them. When we see clinicians who don't do that, and that's just one of the tools that we use, the graduation rate is significantly lower. And again, we talked about that before, but a graduation rate audit is the only way that I know to look at that consistently. But in the end, we're back to the scorecard. So we just went through 6 different examples. We write down the number for your next workshop or your last workshop to improve. Write down the number of registrants, number of attendees, number of first appointments, number of plans of care, and the number of graduations. The other thing that I want to comment on is how to look at so the one thing that I'll commonly see is owners will start talking about percentages. And I think percentages are fine as a benchmark, but they don't really tell the whole story, right? It's easier if you're just using whole numbers. So that's why on the scorecard, I have number of registrants, number of attendees, right? So 30, and let's say we have 10 attendees, that's 33% attendance, right? But if I'm just looking month after month and I see 33% and then 67% and then 62% and then 50% and then 20% and then 80%, that doesn't give me nearly as much data as if I see the number of attendees as 10, 12, 8, 15, 6, 20, right? That's a much cleaner way to look at it. And again, we're trying. So when you go over to percentages in your scorecard, you kind of lose the accuracy of where to look and where to correct and where to optimize your process as well. So anyhow, again, we will make this available to everybody. It's the same exact workshop, SOP, and scorecard that I have in my clinic as we're working with our marketing team, working with our clinical directors and our clinicians to optimize everything that we're doing here with our direct-to-consumer marketing efforts, where we're promoting a workshop. Again, you can go to the show notes, make a copy of this for yourself. It's absolutely free. download it. Please use it for running your workshops as well. And otherwise, hope you very much enjoyed this. You find this extremely valuable for those of you that are looking to grow your practice, looking to leave a bigger impact in your area. You're looking to, educate the community about what your services can provide you. I can tell you workshops are an amazing way to do that. We've been doing them for 2+ decades, transformed our practice, and we're upwards of 10,000 visits a month right now. And I know that workshops are one of the main causes for that. We no longer rely as much on physician referrals, et cetera. And we drive most of our cold traffic marketing efforts directly to an in-house workshop. So hope you find this valuable, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everybody.
How does your practice's profitability today compare to what it was back in 2019? Is it keeping pace with inflation? Hey, this is Chad Madden here. I want to introduce you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a robust financial system for your practice. Most owners aim to improve revenue per visit and enhance their bottom line. However, many are facing declining reimbursements and rising operational costs, making it challenging to maintain financial health. The Profitability Under Pressure program consolidates the best practices currently working for practice owners into one comprehensive system. This program will help you boost profit margins, reclaim your time, gain time freedom, and assist more people in your community and leave a bigger impact. You'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, create a profit plan, and use various levers to increase revenue. Additionally, you'll get a 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Inside Circle community. Here you can connect with other like-minded practice owners who are navigating similar challenges and finding solutions. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line, Peg Gray, who got her finances under control, and Jeff Gersh, who saved time with our cheat sheet for increasing profitability. Don't miss this opportunity. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more within just 90 days of implementation, guaranteed. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Click below and apply now to join the ranks of successful physical therapy private practice owners who transform their businesses with our program. Apply today